I want to talk about this very subtle, insidious movement that can enter our hearts. I call it insidious because we may not be able to name it, but it drags our mood down. It's this very subtle, sneaky feeling that can go unnoticed. But some of the symptoms are feeling lazy, feeling angry, feeling restless. There's all kinds of things that it's this thing that makes us feel off. This little thing today I want to talk about is resentment. Are you self-aware enough to notice when resentment builds up in your heart? It can be the simplest things that cause resentment. It doesn't have to be this dramatic hurt. Resentment can be as simple as, for example, reading sad news. And all of a sudden, there's a subtle resentment for the way life is. I don't know, resentment can come in the form of jealousy. I see what people have and I wish I had that. And then there's a little resentment. And I just start to be snappy or something. I'll give you, for me personally, one reason why this word came to my heart today, preparing today's Mass. Resentment builds up in the hearts of priests very sneakily sometimes. Today, as most Saturdays for me, I had over 2 hours sitting in one spot hearing confessions, which I love to do. Getting to just listen and pour mercy, letting God's grace touch and heal in the simple gentleness of the confessional. 2 hours and 15 minutes is what I was in there for today. Loved it. Had a quick lunch, phone call with my dad, updated him on things that are going on, and then I had a wedding at 1 p.m. I love weddings, and this wedding in particular is this young couple. It's so exciting to me to see a young couple giving their life away in marriage, that they're going to grow and learn together. It really excites me, and I really wanted to preach well for them because I wanted them to keep going, get back to Mass. Like they're getting back to Mass, but they've faltered in their life. And I'm just so desirous to see them succeed in marriage and to not be selfish about it. So then 3 o'clock rolls around and I'm feeling off. I'm feeling annoyed and distracted, and I gotta get this homily for the 4:30 p.m. Mass. I'm being really real, guys. I made a phone call to a buddy. I was like, hey, you got any homily ideas? And just described how I was feeling. And I just found, at one point, we're still going back and forth. This is a buddy priest. And I just said, I just feel like I'm having a hard time thinking of things because I just feel like I gave it all. I spent myself in confessions and then this wedding. I just feel like I don't have much else to give. And he's a good friend of mine, and he's very intuitive, and he says, you think you might have some resentment? I was like, oh my gosh. It's so subtle. And it's not like I hate my ministry. I love what I do. It's not like I didn't want to be with you tonight. This is so crucial, what we get to partake in today. But this very sneaky feeling of, I've spent myself. Do I have to give more? It's called resentment. And it just felt so good to name that. And then we're like, the Beatitudes are kind of the antidote for resentment. Resentment is a sneaky pride. It's subtle. I do so much. I'm so useful. First reading says, seek the Lord. Seek justice. Seek humility. St. Paul said in the second, our readings were fantastic today. St. Paul says, not many of you are wise by human standards. Not many are powerful or noble birth. We're not much. We're not called by God because we have it all together. You and I are called by God to serve because He serves us and wants to serve through us. The Beatitudes are a form of healing balm, an antidote, because it cuts through to the pride. And it's an antidote for resentment because Jesus is naming the things that can cause resentment, and He says that they're good for us. May I say, just before going into the Beatitudes, Jesus, one thought is to consider. Someone once said, anger, resentment, jealousy don't change the heart of others. They only change yours. So Jesus invites us to let go of the resentment, and notice, where's this coming from? He says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Theirs is the kingdom of God. Poor in spirit means realizing that I'm poor. I don't have a lot of great spiritual strength to give. I don't have a lot of spiritual skills. We might notice moments where you just feel like, I'm not good at praying. I try and I just don't seem to get anything out of it. Blessed are you, poor in spirit. Notice you could choose resentment. Gosh, God should have given me more. Or if only I had been raised better. Or if only blah, 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 blah. Resentment that I'm so poor in spirit. Jesus says, blessed are you. Blessed are you who mourn. Oh gosh, yeah, the grief, death, loss can raise up resentments. The painfulness of it all. Jesus says, blessed are you. Don't choose resentment, you're blessed. You will be comforted. Blessed are you who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are you who are meek. Blessed are the merciful. Yeah, even that one, merciful. You can be some of the most generous, kind, smiley people carry resentments because it's just natural to them to be really nice and merciful to others, but in their heart can sometimes build this feeling of, but no one ever takes care of me. No one ever shows me mercy. I'm here spending myself and no one gives me anything. Very subtle. But we're blessed if we're merciful. We're blessed if we strive to be clean of heart. Interesting that with clean of heart, he says that you will see God. If you keep striving for purity. Purity isn't just about lust. Purity is about having one thing. Like pure water, it's just water. There's nothing else mixed in. When our heart becomes more just about God, we begin to notice God in our lives, in our prayer, in our quiet. We notice Him in the painful moments. We notice Him in the joys. And we're blessed for it because we become free of resentment and we begin to abide with the Lord, who He is the one who models this simplicity, this humility. He embodies the Beatitudes. In the Eucharist, we see Him do this, where we hear every Mass. The priest takes the bread and he recounts what Jesus does, what Jesus did with the bread. The bread is taken. It's blessed. It's broken. And it's given. The Beatitudes are contrary to secular society, this idea that we're blessed if we're meek, if we're humble, poor in spirit, if we're merciful, if we're peacemakers, if we strive and hunger and thirst for righteousness, even if we're persecuted, no matter what comes our way, we're blessed. That's so contrary to our natural reason sometimes. But Jesus shows us that He wants to take our lives. And he blesses us in all of our poverty and pain. And He does want to break us. Only when the heart is broken can it grow. I don't want to freak. I don't mean something really negative. I'm trying to paint a beautiful picture of Jesus opens Himself up for us and gives Himself away. And this mysteriously is our greatest joy. To give and not to count the cost, as St. Ignatius said. To fight and not to heed the wounds. To toil and not to seek for rest, save that of knowing that I'm doing your will. Beatitudes are an antidote to resentment if we allow ourselves to place our pain, the sources of resentment, before the Lord. Because He gives it all. And He wants to give more.